Welcome back, everybody. In this video, I'm going to show you how not to pour resin for a river. All joking aside, here are some of the trials and tribulations of my efforts to pour a river. In a previous video, I actually did pour a water scene without leaking, but this time it was a little more difficult. Like before, I use silicone to seal all of the cracks that I could find, but this was pretty much too late. I should have done this a lot earlier before the vegetation went in. Like before, I sealed all the cracks that I could, and then I dammed them up with these scrap pieces of masonite to cover the openings, and then used more caulk to seal these dams in. I bought 2-part epoxy resin from Amazon. I will include a link in the show notes. This is a pretty good product. It has a working time of about 4 hours, but you need to let it dry for 48 hours. You need to mix equal parts of both bottles into a large container and use the supplied wood stirrers and stir the 2 parts equally, slowly but thoroughly, so that you're not creating bubbles, but making sure you mix everything. I used some Woodland Scenics water tint, and this is very powerful stuff, so just use 1 drop at a time and slowly add more until you get the desired amount. Well, here goes nothing. I think a catastrophe was averted. It started leaking at the bottom of this dam that I put up. It looks like I didn't do a good enough job of sealing the area that is behind this boat. I was kind of lazy and I didn't bother. I should have first not have glued this boat at the time. I should have moved it to a side, caulked all of it, and then put the boat in. But lessons learned. Well, it started leaking at the bottom, which meant that there was a possibility that this entire 96 ounces of resin would have completely drained out as compared to having a leak on the sides. So I grabbed as quickly as I could something that would be good for stopping the leak while liquid was still coming out. So I had this JB Weld water weld handy. Luckily I had a tube already open. I was able to mix the A and the B side of it and started patching this area up. This probably will dry as hard as a rock, and the issue will be how am I going to remove this once this dries. But I think that's going to be less of an issue than would have been losing all of that 96 ounces of resin. The resin is leaking in hidden spots. Don't know how I'm going to resolve it other than accelerate the curing time, because I have used up all of my epoxy putty and it's still leaking. Well, I'm trying to accelerate the curing time of the resin. Hopefully that will start solidifying the resin and slowing down the leaks. They're already slow, tiny pinhole leaks that are just dropping slowly. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to lose too much resin and the lion's share of it will remain. And then if I do have a depreciable loss, I will have to buy another resin to replace what's missing. It's 4 hours later. It's no longer leaking. It does look like a mess. And I have the heater going. It's super warm in this layout room. And it's superficially hard, as you can hear. This part is hard. The opposite end is still a little gooey, but you can start hearing it being firm. So it was pretty scary to think I was going to lose all of my expensive resin, but it held up. And in a few more hours I will check again, and after about 24 to 48 hours I'm going to check to see how much resin I will need to add to this or stay where I'm at. I would prefer to stay where I'm at, but if I need to add more, I will add more. After removing the masonite dam, I discovered there was a gap between the resin and the layout. This was due to the resin leaking out while I was heating up the top of the resin. Except for the gap that was created, I did not lose a lot of resin. So I moved on to the Mod Podge layer to create ripples on the flat glass-like resin layer. I added quite a bit of Mod Podge and then used a brush to apply it to the entire surface of the river area. After spreading the Mod Podge on the resin, I used an airbrush to create my gentle waves. After several hours, the Mod Podge started drying up. The next step was to get some even clearer caulk that I still had handy from the last body of water that I did, and added some rubbing alcohol to start thinning it out. And this was going to be used to make my larger waves that are around the boats. At first I used a coffee stirrer to apply the clear caulk around the boat, but I found it easier to use my fingers to put the caulk in the correct place and actually smooth it in. It does not leave fingerprints, so it was handy. Since I was modeling a canal, I did not want the waves to be very choppy, so I did my best to not exaggerate the wake that these boats would create so that it could represent a more gentle water effect. And because I was not trying to exaggerate the wake, the white frothing was kept to a minimum. Once I was done painting the frothing, I added a little bit of Mod Podge on top of it to enhance the glossy appearance of the froth with the rest of the river. Although this was a nerve-wracking project, I do like the results. In part 3, I will be making trees and vines. Thank you for visiting the little fishing village of Amalfitano. Please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. Until next time, arrivederci.